Well, BG, here I am. I'm in France, just outside Nice. And look at this bad boy. Looks very pretty. You know what the best part is? She got the house.
Now let me know in the comments below, would you have rather had the yacht or the house? I mean, sure, losing the house is a little bit of a low blow, but whatever, it happens sometimes in boating, just like some of the things we'll witness in this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week, kind of like the low blow that happens here. This crew wound up getting their big fishing boat stuck that we saw in the beginning of this clip, and now they're trying to pull it out with a jet ski. I don't think that one's going to go exactly as planned, kind of like we'll witness right here as they try and do this in the surf. Well, the surf winds up winning. I just have a feeling they're going to have to call something a little bigger out on this one to try and get this boat off the beach, but towing with a jet ski can be tough. If you've never tried it, towing any type of boat at all with a jet ski just is not a simple task. But let's be honest, with some of the things we see on this channel, boating in general for some is not a simple task. I mean, sure, boating's a little more difficult than, let's say, driving a car. I mean, when you're out on the highway, you pretty much know your car is going to clear a bridge, and that doesn't happen in boating. Plus, you also know you got to look out for those tides in boating as well, so there are some different factors that play in versus just getting behind the wheel of a car and driving down the road. Kind of like this situation here, this really is one of the more difficult situations to handle in boating or riding any type of watercraft, and that's when you find yourself in a spot where your vessel actually has a current or some sort of force pushing from behind, propelling it forward. The second this happens, you wind up losing control almost completely. You lose steering, the ability to control your speed, and things can just get out of hand really quickly. A lot of times we'll see this in various rivers, but another spot that it's pretty common as well is going to be at inlets. This is why when you see people approaching back into an inlet with waves behind them, they have to be careful with what they're doing, and it's the most common reason we see people stuff their vessel in waves when they're coming back into an inlet, is because that rear wave behind them catches up, grabs the stern, and pushes it forward into the wave in front of them, raising the stern, lowering the bow, and causing chaos. Now, there are other situations obviously where chaos can be caused in this, kind of like the situation we see here, where this young lady was near a wave, it caught up behind her and pushed the ski in and she lost control. Fortunately in this situation, this crew's able to jump in and help her out and she has no issues and no injuries. Now of course there are plenty of other ways for things to go wrong in boating, and one of the easiest ways for that is to make some boneheaded choices, kind of like the crew we see here and kind of like our next crew. I mean, when I see this, nothing about it says this is going to go well.
Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no.
Now the one part I don't understand in this one is the vehicle appears to be four-wheel drive. So the first clip we saw where they were trying to back out and the tires were spinning, why didn't they have it in four-wheel drive then? None of that probably would have went wrong. Now other times in boating, things are going to go wrong, kind of like we see here. Now I'm not 100% sure exactly how this one went down. This is about 30 miles off the coast. This crew wound up having to call the Coast Guard because their vessel was taking on water. Now I'm not sure if they forgot a drain plug, took a wave over the bow, but as you can tell, things went wrong, and things went wrong quickly. So much so that this crew's not wasting any time here trying to figure out what's wrong with the boat. You can tell the crew's just abandoning ship and jumping on the Coast Guard vessel. Again, another situation that you're not going to have necessarily when you compare boating to driving a car. Typically, if something goes wrong in your vehicle, you're stuck on the side of the road, you're just calling the tow truck. If you get stuck out in the middle of the ocean, 30 miles offshore, it becomes a little bit more of a complex situation, especially if you're in a sinking situation such as this. Now, fortunately in this situation, the Coast Guard was able to quickly arrive on the scene and get this crew out of the water, kind of like our next scene where somebody else dives in to help these guys out.
I'm not a part of this. They sound to get everyone looking.
Hey, crew, I need somebody on the wing.
Are they kidding me?
They think this serious too, you know that?
Now, was that one of those little plastic tugboats? Let me know in the comments if that's what that was, because that is crazy if it is. Now, boats aren't the only thing you have to worry about going down in boating. You gotta get that boat in the water somehow, and sometimes other things like a truck might go in.
Truck, man. Oh, well, I took it. There's all sorts of stuff in there. Vape pens, I love how the door still works. There's somebody's named Brianna Smith.
Now, one thing's for sure in boating, you'll want to be careful who you assign tasks to. So for example, our last crew, whoever assigned that person to back the trailer in, probably assigned the wrong person to put in the truck. So you always have to remember, assign the correct person for the job when it comes to boating. Kind of like this crew here. They got the right girl to go up that mast and take care of whatever she's taking care of up there, but that's just not always the case. If you send the wrong person up the mast, things go wrong. Now, speaking of assigning tasks, at first I thought they were doing this intentionally until I see the guy move up into the bow, which tells me Captain assigned him that task to try and get the bow down.
Example, what happens if you drop inside this water? That's what happens.
And this is definitely a task I would not assign to a friend, which is to jump into that water. Sometimes getting in the water and boating's fun, other times you don't want to be in the water, and well, sometimes you just want to jump over the water. Now, of course, another difficult thing you'll deal with in boating is going to be weather. Weather can come in out of nowhere, and we all already know the weatherman never quite has it right. But I'll tell you what, it can definitely affect your boating day pretty quickly. Even if you're just trying to come in or leave the dock, things can go wrong just based on bad weather. Now, our last clip showed a professional captain trying to get off a dock and snapping lines in heavy winds and seas. Now, these clips show more of what happens to the rest of us when heavy winds and seas come rolling through pretty quickly. In fact, this one's not even a sea state, this is from Lake Tahoe. So up on a lake where boats were just chilling when all of a sudden weather came through, and this was the aftermath after the wind and rain came in and just ripped all the vessels off their moorings and wound up flipping boats, as we see here. But it gets even worse when we add ocean into it. So if we go somewhere where the ocean is and bad weather comes through, all of a sudden we see scenes like this as well, where things wind up on top of reefs, on sandbars, on the beach, and it just gets wild and crazy pretty quickly. So if you're gonna leave your boat anywhere, especially in a coastal area, always make sure it's secure before you just leave it anchored up. And I guess, well, based on this picture, if you're gonna take a vehicle to a coastal area, you might wanna make sure it's secure before you go to sleep for the night as well. And then of course you always want to make sure you got that vessel secured, as we've mentioned. Even the pros will struggle with this from time to time, as we see clips like this come in where people wind up crashing into other boats. Thanks for watching, crew. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out on your waterways, be sure to hit us up on Facebook or Instagram at Broncos Guru and let us know when you might see your stories over here. Just like Adam Coolidge, Leigh Williams, and Coated Beard did this week. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here. If not, we're coming to steal your drain plug.